A lot of people in the media have seemed perplexed by Rich Men North of Richmond and the singer Oliver Anthony's seemingly contradictory statements. But as a former conservative who is now on the left, it all makes sense to me. So I was a conservative through the Tea Party era from 2009 up until about 2017, 2018. And during that time, there was a very prevalent strain of conservatism, more of like a right libertarianism that had a populist bent to it, that acknowledged a lot of the struggles and the hardships the working class was going through in terms of economic struggles, economic inequality. Remember that the Tea Party was spurred by the 2008 recession itself, but they claimed that things like high taxes, the declining value of the dollar, government spending, and government intervention were the causes of the working class's plight rather than the true cause, which of course is capitalism and all the outgrowths of it. And there was actually a time in the Tea Party movement where they would acknowledge and say the concerns of Occupy Wall Street are valid. And these are real problems, but our solution is the one that works. Their belief was that if you took the hand of government off of the normal person, if you removed regulations and you made the country freer by limiting the role of government, that it would alleviate poverty, economic inequality, and dependency, which are basically the ideas that Oliver Anthony seems to be alluding to. And this end of conservatism was very disconnected from Republican politics. There was a very specific end of it that was very conspiracy theory oriented. Alex Jones, I think, is the most well-known exemplar of that, where they would constantly talk about the decline of the value of the dollar. They would talk about high taxes. They would talk about economic inequality, but they would blame it on this shadowy new world order type entity, again, rather than capitalism. And they would never say, oh yeah, we're in line with the Republican Party. They would always consider themselves to be completely outside of the mainstream of the Republican Party. And that's why Oliver Anthony has made statements that he has where he's basically saying he's not with either party, because this strain of thought wouldn't have, even though they were very, very closely aligned with conservative politics, and especially with the way conservative politics is now, they would not acknowledge that then. Now we have, obviously, Alex Jones supported Donald Trump, and after Trump's election, I think that was a big shift in thinking away from completely shying away from the Republican spotlight. But still, that set of ideas does persist. And I think it goes to show that a lot of the issues that rural America is facing are things that progressive and further left ideas can solve. But there is a general resistance to the mainstream of politics itself. That's why I think that further left groups, further left ideas, just like the conservatives managed to play a lot of these, especially disaffected white men in rural America, through further right ideas, we could use far further left ideas to bring them closer to the left, especially that maybe some of these left-wing ideas are outside of the mainstream of what the Democratic Party is pushing now with reasonability politics and these things that the moderate left is pushing, that this disaffected population really doesn't want to have anything with. So there are some significant problems with this narrative, with the narrative of Rich Men North of Richmond. There's the possible allusion to racial issues through that north of Richmond itself relating to the Union and Civil War. And there's always that slight tinge of racism in a lot of these conspiracy theory type ideas. But a lot of it is just confusion and not knowing who the true infringers of your liberty and your ability to maintain yourself financially are. And of course, you have the punching down with the welfare type remarks. And that gets slid in there because they say, oh yeah, welfare is causing inflation, which is causing your money that you work so hard for to go down into the toilet. But if we manage to explain that no, and this is a long process and it's going to take a long time, but explain no, it is capitalism that is causing these problems, maybe further left ideas that aren't necessarily the mainstream of democratic politics can bring this population into the progressive fold. And I have a lot of hope for that. For more insights, please subscribe to the Fixer Punk podcast. I cover a little bit more of Richmond, north of Richmond, at the end of the last episode.